O Ziva Zimaradia Vaya Hili Lishua. Top of your song sheet. O Ziva Zimaradia Vaya Hili Lishua. Aziv Zimratia Vayahili Lishua. Aziv Zimratia Vayahili Lishua. O Ziva Zimaradia Vayahili Lishua. O Ziva Zimaradia Vayahili Lishua. O Ziva Zimratia Vayahili Lishua. O Ziva Zimratia Vayahili Lishua.
I'm not used to saying hello to y'all without saying Shabbat Shalom. Feels like Shabbat, sort of. So we want to begin this gathering in the way that we begin all of our gatherings, which is to notice where we are. So I want to invite us all to settle into the space that you're in, whether it's in the sanctuary or on Zoom. And if you're on Zoom and you're somewhere other than the Lashan Ohlone territory of Huchen, to bring into your awareness whose land you're on. And if you want to share that in the chat, to do that. And for those of us here, to remember whose land we're on, the land of the Lashan Ohlone people in the territory of Huchen. In this beautiful late springtime where you can barely go outside without your nose being overwhelmed with the fragrance of the most amazing things that it seems the goddess in her wisdom ever had the joy to create. So we offer up gratitude for the Lashan Ohlone people, past and present, for their tending to this land, for their prayers on this land, and for their generous and gracious hosting of all of us who are not indigenous and who live on this land. Thank you.
Yes, please. Do you have a mic on? All right, great. Hello, everyone. So great to see you here. I totally I did space out. I was like, look at the space. I haven't been here in a few, like a month or so. So Shulamit and I will offer welcoming for you, and then we'll be followed by Penny, and then Dee's going to read our Take Space, Make Space. So welcome to each and all of you. During this time together, we hope to provide a space for you to lean into this space, the land, your meditation practices, or into the compassion practices we will offer this week. As you can see, I should have edited that out. That was from a meditation I offered. But for you to be present with us here. You are here because you were meant to be. We are here, and we are thus, and we are. And thus we were and all meant to be here together, holding and creating a space for refuge in this experience, in this holy place of ours, that will for some provide healing, for some comfort, and the opportunity to be in joy together as we honor our lives and our presence. I'm gonna skip that.
We welcome each of you, people of all genders, our friends who identify as transgender, gender expansive, or beyond the binary, those who identify as women, as men, boys or girls, two-spirit, and all gender configurations, you are welcome here. People of all spiritualities, practices, beliefs, and religions, you are Kehilla, you are welcome here. People with faith and no faith, and people in a process of exploration. You who identify as agitators, activists, and change makers. You who are agents of change within our community, other communities, including education, mental health, and those who work for or with our youth. You too are welcome. We welcome those of us who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, queer, heterosexual, and those beyond or as yet undetermined. For those whom none of these labels fit or who don't want a label, you are just as welcome here.
Yay. I'm sweating up here like Aretha Franklin. Just because I just drank hot water. She would try to warn me. We welcome you. We welcome you to this experience and to experience we welcome to this experience any people of indigenous on this land. Please, you're welcome here. People of African or Black or African diaspora, all of you who are API, Ancestry, East, West, and beyond, we welcome you who identify as Hispanic, Latina, Latinx, anyone from the rich Southern Hemisphere. We welcome European descent, people of European descents, all people from around the globe, all humans present here are welcome. There are people here from various locations, online, and maybe in the room as well. You are all welcome. And those who support you to be here, some of you who came with friends or family or supporters, also welcome. Your family, your ancestors, if they're with you, are all welcome.
You are welcome here if you identify as single, married, partner, dating, monogamous, asexual, aromantic, polyamorous, or more. We are all welcome here. Elders, youth, all ages present in this moment, you are welcome here.
Our siblings, cousins, spiritual friends living with disabilities, visible or invisible, you are welcome. Your bodies are welcome. No matter your shape, size, in comfort, living with chronic pain, tension, or stress, you are welcome, and may you find some comfort here. All survivors, which means each and every one of us. All survivors are welcome, no matter your experience. We are glad you made it here. Your emotions are welcome. Your joy, bliss, grief, rage, indignation might come up. I doubt it, but we'll work it out if it does. Disappointment, if you're holding anger or fear, comforting yourself as possible, you are welcome.
There is still a good chance that we have not named everything nor everyone in every way. And we want to acknowledge that there's simply no way to do that. And we hope that you still feel very welcome here in the wholeness and fullness of your being. Can you feel it? The wholeness
Yes.
and the fullness of our being.
Yes, the home for the moment. So I'm going to step down and invite Penny to come up.
Thank you, Lev and Shulamit. And in a minute, I'm going to bring up our beloved Dee Ward, who's going to read the Take Space, Make Space statement. And I guess I'm Penny Rosenwasser. As a white Kehilla member, I just really want to thank our beloved BIPOC members for this incredible gift that you've given us. And if you haven't heard it, you will hear it in a minute. But it's about what Shulamit and Lev were just saying. It's about welcoming, it's about honoring, and especially, I think, it's about belonging. And this is actually when the BIPOC, this is one concrete act that they've given us to help move our community towards decentering whiteness and centering the experience and leadership of BIPOC folks in our community. And a lot of our committees are already integrating this into our practice. So, Dee, thank you. Okay, which one? This one? I can try this one? Okay.
Hello, everybody. And for those of you that don't know me or that are new, I am the office administrator here at Kehilla, and I'm also an honorary Jew of color, because y'all dubbed me that. And I'm learning, and Rabbi Dev's going to teach me Hebrew. Anyway. All right, our Make Space, Take Space statement. Please assume that people who are here are supposed to be here. In every space that you are in, notice who is present, who is leading, who is speaking, and whose voice, perspectives, and lived experience are not reflected in a given room, in leadership roles, or in conversation. What is your individual role, and what is our communal responsibility to make changes when appropriate? When in collective conversations, please notice who else is in the conversation with you, and wait for people whose identities are unrepresented in this space, and or whose identities have been historically and systematically oppressed, to speak first and more often if they so choose. That means, for example, BIPOC speak before white people. You might not get to share. If time is a constraint and others are wishing to speak and you don't get a turn to speak, please connect with someone else after the gathering. Thank you for allowing me to share. And up I go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's my box when I need it.
Thank you, Dee, Penny, Lev, Rabbi Dev, Chazan Shulamit. Welcome. I'm not sure that there's anyone here who I haven't met yet, but if I haven't, I'm Michael Sachs-Toller, the Executive Director here at Kehilla, and this is one of my favorite nights of the year, because I always enjoy the opportunity to see people and then to get to, for you to get a picture of some of the things that I get to get a picture of during the year, and for you to get let in on information that is information that I live with all year long, and different ones of you live with different parts of it. So I'm very excited that you all will get to that we'll all get to do this together. Our program goes till 9 p.m. tonight. I will do everything within my power to have us done by 9 p.m. What that will mean is that There's many things to be talked about, many things to share, and we're not going to get to all of them tonight because there's, I mean, I think we always want it to be that there's something more, you're left wanting more. So hopefully this will spawn more conversations and more questions. Couple things of housekeeping. Firstly, I want to say a shout out from the beginning, a thank you to Jonathan Rojas, who is our AV tech up in the booth, to Natalie Boskin, who is our Zoom tech out there in Zoom land. So for those who are on Zoom, just so you know, there's a screen over here, so if you pop your picture up, we get to see you. Wave at us, we'll see you waving. There you go. And I invite you at any point to come on the screen that you feel ready to do it. We'd love to see your face. And Jonathan will periodically pan down here so you can see the crowd that's down here. I want to encourage you to take care of yourself. If you need to get up and move around, if you need to go take care of business, the bathrooms are down the hallway there, or they're at your house, wherever you are. And but there will be a break in the middle, but don't wait for it if you need it. And those of you who do talk on Zoom, please make sure to mute yourself once you're done talking. With that, I want to just have you take a moment, and for those of you on Zoom, just check out who else is on Zoom. If you want to chat and say hello to anybody. For those in the room, take a look around. There's people here. Some of these are people you've probably seen a bunch, and others are people who you may not have seen in a while. Okay. And this is certainly one of those parts where it'd be nice to talk for longer than we can right this moment. But yes, lots of waving going. Nice to see all of you there on the Zoom screen. So let's what we're gonna do tonight. There's basically 3 parts to the evening. Those of you who've been to these over the last several years will notice that there's kind of a process that I am partial to for this meeting. And one part of it, the first part of it is just to do some acknowledgement of noticing what this past year has been. And so we'll spend a little time noticing some things about this past year. Then we're going to transition to a second portion, which is a chance for us to engage each other and on a key piece of understanding, the key issue that we're thinking about. And in this case, we're going to have a chance to talk about transitions. There's lots of transitions in our community, and that will be a center point, and you'll also get a chance to talk some to each other. So you won't just be hearing us talk from the front, you'll get a chance, everyone, to talk. And then we're going to do the third part, which is where we talk about the state of the congregation as we go forward. It's kind of talking about where we are and what we are thinking about and planning on doing over this next period. And that will be sharing from me, but there'll be some sharing from some other people as well. And then we conclude with some acknowledgments and appreciations and some announcements. So it'll be a nice full evening. I'd like to get it underway with noticing this year. It's been I think it's been another good and full year, and one still filled with its own set of challenges. And so I want to start out by noticing that a lot of things have happened here in Kehilla, in Kehilla land, in our community. And I want to start out by just acknowledging a few of the new initiatives that came to my mind right off the top, and then to see if there's some other things that happened new this year, and then any other things that happened this year that you were pleased about or excited about, or you consider highlights of what happened in the Kehilla year this year. So we've had a Sacred Land Committee began this year to deal with our land and get connected to and understand the land that we live on in our little corner here of these blocks in the corner of Piedmont. Our face-to-face Jewish-Palestinian Reparations Alliance was starting to rumble around this time last year, but has now done a number of things, raising money, sending money over to our sister city in Palestine. We have a new a very organized adult bar mitzvah program and a new conversion program coordinated by our own Rabbi Sam, lucky back over there, with a bunch of people in it. Lots of people teaching in the program, lots of good classes that other people have come to too, but the folks in those programs. Our Disability Justice Committee is beginning to grow. It was also being formed right around a year ago. And our Community Connections newsletter has burst onto the scene in this winter with lots of information about particularly the projects of you, our committees, and all the different groups that function in Kehilla. And Elle wanted me to make sure and tell you that you can see the most recent one on connections.kehilla.org. Yeah, please read. There's good stuff edited by Hillary Brooks and Abby Farrell. So go there. So what I'd like to know, are there any other new initiatives that I did not call forth? And you can also, if you write them in the chat, if you are on Zoom and have them. Any other new initiatives from this year? Anybody in the chat? So then I'd love to open it up for what are some of your highlights of what happened in Kehilla this year? They may not be new initiatives, but there'll be things that happened in this past year. So call it out and I will repeat it so that our friends on Zoom can hear it. And then those of you who are on Zoom, if you want to put it in the chat, I will read them out loud. The steeple came down this year. I was going to mention that later, but yes, it did. A nice new little roof is up in its place. Other things. We had hybrid High Holy Days, and we had High Holy Days here in this sanctuary for all of High Holidays, which had never happened before as far as I know. Varya? Kehilla School in person all year long, inside as well as outside. Viva. There was pizza and popcorn during Kehilla School. Yes, one of the best things about Kehilla School. I can attest to the popcorn. Avi. The Chevra Kadisha has expanded this year to cover particularly the gender and age diversity in our community. We've got someone saying we had shared leadership in the meditation and Kaddish group. Nice. Penny? Our first Jews of Color history event in our series. Was that a hand back there? No. Shulamit? We had our first Hallel with a full klezmer band. I don't know, I think the klezmer band playing on Simchat Torah was pretty radical too, huh? I like that. Other people, other highlights. JOC on the Bima. 700 benches. Talmud study. Okay. Over the, oh, go ahead, Bernadette. Rabbi Dev's Torah, what class? Torah class? Rabbi Dev's Torah class, bracha. Our retreat under the redwoods last summer, great food, great retreat. Others? Karen. We had some sabbatical time during this past year for Rabbi Dev. Chazan Shulamit gets her last part in the fall. Others? I don't know, we had a Seder back in the building. First time ever led by Rabbi Sam and Chazan Shulamit. It was extraordinary. Any other highlights? I see somebody in the chat. I'm going to say something about staffing to those in the chat. I'm going to say something about staffing in a few minutes. Jamie. We pivoted from doing a fundraising event that we did not have the resource to pull off to doing a letter writing and phone calling fundraising campaign. So I know there were more we did. We had multi-access services as well as some in-person only and some Zoom only services all year long. And I think we've gotten into a rhythm of how to do this. So, all right, well, we'll stop with the highlights for the moment. There are more, I'm sure. And now I want to focus just on a couple of more specific things. And one is I want to say we're actually quite honored to have Congressman Barbara Lee's, one of her aides, Cesar Macias, has come tonight to offer something from Congresswoman Lee to our about the work that Kehilla has done, and most specifically the work we've done with our immigration team. So what I'd like to do is invite anyone in the room that's been involved in the immigration team to come on up. Come on, Cesar, also. And if you are on Zoom and you've been involved in the immigration work, put your electronic hand up, and that we'll see you pop up in the upper left-hand corner.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, good evening, everyone here and on Zoom. My name is Cesar Macias. I am a congressional aide for Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and I am here on her behalf to really just recognize the incredible work that this community has done in our district. You know, from providing temporary shelter to asylum-seeking families, to the incredible advocacy that you do to advance social and racial justice, and it's just incredible work that you guys are doing. So if I can just quickly read a statement from the Congresswoman. So this is a certificate of special congressional recognition for everyone here and all the committees in recognition of Jewish American Heritage Month and your commitment to social justice. Thank you for fostering community and working tirelessly to find sustainable solutions for our district's most pressing issues. Your advocacy for progressive causes is commendable. On behalf of the 12th Congressional District of California, I honor your contributions to the community. Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Thank you all. And I'll present this to Julie. I met Julie and Sam a few months ago. We've been doing incredible work in the immigration space, and I'm looking forward to continue to partner with you guys and everyone else involved and continue our collaboration this year and for years to come. Thank you all.
Does that work? Can I? Is it okay to take it off? Yeah. So I have 30 seconds to talk, but so I just want to thank you so much, and thanks to Congresswoman Barbara Lee for this wonderful honor. And thank you so much for partnering with us to, in particular, to help reunite a Venezuelan family that we've been working with, and for advocating to try to bring an Afghan family that our congregation is sponsoring to safety out of Afghanistan. And I know that's a Herculean task, but thank you so much for your persistence and continuing to work on that. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
You may be seated. Are we supposed to sing at this point and then they go sit? Yeah. And I know that Cesar noted some of the other work going on here, so I just wanted to say maybe the folks from the Homeless Action, anyone who's done work with the Homeless Action Committee or the EJC wants to raise a hand. Great. Anyone that was involved in our racial justice, belonging and allyship, the follow-up, the Arc of Change, raise a hand. Great. And thank you for all the different parts of what you have contributed to make this past year happen. I want to now invite Penny Rosenwasser to give some more information about the Belonging and Allyship Project, kind of what has come after we finished our arc of change, which was a little over a year ago. So Penny.
Thank you, Michael. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to read some of my notes because I don't want to go over time. But Belonging and Allyship, for those of you who don't know, is our big and long-term initiative to address white supremacy and racial justice internally in Kehilla, and it formed in 2017. And there's more on the Kehilla website about that. And the vision for it was first articulated by our beloved member Aurora Levens Morales, who talked about the idea of Kehilla becoming a magnet for Jews of color. And so these are just a few highlights from the last year, and apologies if I've left out some big ones. And so I'm going to just talk about the different groups that are part of Belonging and Allyship Initiative. So Kehilla's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team, our DEI team, actually helps lead this work. And there's 13 of us. We're half BIPOC. And our idea is to lovingly hold Kehilla accountable around challenging white supremacy and centering BIPOC. And in the last year, we've organized, last July, we organized a webinar with Black Jewish leader Kehilla McCoy. This was for the whole synagogue. That was about finding a common language for structural racism. And then, as I shouted out a minute ago, in December, we had our first Jews of Color history event. It's part of a series. And this was on Zoom. It was led by Victoria Alcassette and Avi Brooks and moderated by Leah Barrow. And here's a little fun fact that coming up on July 30th will be our next Jew of Color history event. It will be featuring Dr. Louis Ricardo Gordon. And you'll be hearing about that soon. So save that date, July 30th. And DEI team, we also organized what we called a Fruits of Change meeting, and that was to share with everyone at Kehilla some of the results of doing this year-long arc of change training that was for a year with 80 Kehilla leaders that Kehilla McCoy led for us. Then the BIPOC Congress, ta-da, who is a subset of the DEI team, rolled out what you just heard, the powerful make space, take space statement. They also hold BIPOC Shabbats in person every month. They form deep relationships with each other. They help lead services. They help with the Committee Connections newspaper, it's called. They're running for the board of directors. And they're presenting the Jews of Color history series. The committee leaders group called and welcomed new members to Kehilla personally. Also initiated the Committee Connections newsletter, made the call for saying we need to bring back something like that since we lost Kol Kehilla. So thanks to the committee leaders for that. The community educators have been greeters at Shabbat, sponsored a Kiddush, visited Oakland's African American Museum, and coming up, now we are organizing a visit to Oakland's African American Museum this Friday, 3:45 p.m. It's for everyone at Kehilla who wants to come. It's free, and if you go to the Kehilla Weekly, you can find out more about it. Leanne, I think you're on Zoom. There, you can raise your hand. Leanne's organizing that. Youth educators are working to formalize a structure for addressing racism and decentering whiteness in our beloved school so that youth of color experience unconditional love and a sense of belonging. And they also advise the hiring committee around interview questions for hiring our new school staff. The spiritual leaders added to their wonderful team, Victoria Alcassette and Fresh Lev White. And there were many BIPOC on the Bima at High Holidays. And they're now working on framing a version of the Take Space, Make Space statement that can be incorporated into every Kehilla service. The institutional leaders are reaching out to BIPOC to join the board, ideally 2 or more BIPOC board members to be added, and are working on our organizational development project, including making Kehilla's racial justice work front and center throughout Kehilla. And then the White Folks Decentering Whiteness Affinity Group that I get to co-lead with Maria Lewis We've been meeting since 2018, and again, we work on decentering whiteness and working on dismantling our own racism. We share feelings, we build skills, we analyze homework articles, and we do experiential work together. And you can see the Belonging and Allyship page for more. And I just want to end with this quote from DEI member Ann Finkelstein. Ann wrote, "We recognize the process of institutional change can feel long and slow. And we also see the healing, joy, and connection that emerges from being on this path together." So thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Rabbi Sam.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rabbi Sam, and I'm sharing very briefly about our ritual life this year. And I would say the themes that came up for me are creativity and collaboration. And I think those came through particularly strong this year because we're still in the pandemic and figuring out how can we be together and do rituals and holidays. So we had high holidays here for the first time, very creative, as well as multi-access, and at Lake Temescal. We had a huge, awesome party, Simchat Torah, at Urban Adamah. It's one of our strong collaborations with Chochmat Halev and other East Bay communities. We did Hanukkah in all of the ways, a multi-access, in-person, online. We had an incredible pickup choir to sing, co-led by Beth and Don. Purim was, again, a collaboration at Urban Adamah with many, many community partners. We had twice as many community seders, an online seder and an in-person seder, with new people in leadership in both of those. And Shavuot is coming up, so usually there's a community-wide all-night learning. They're doing an afternoon of learning, so we are going to do an all-night of Torah learning, led by Rabbi Dev and many community Kehilla members that are bringing their Torah forward, many for the first time, so really an incredibly sweet way to gather. So we are rising to the moment with creativity and collaboration. Thank you.
Chazan Shulamit called out, we have lots of new babies. We also had some new wedded couples, and we had a whole bunch of young people become bar mitzvah this past year. So many. Many. So lots of batei din, gatherings where folks became Jewish. So yes, lots happening. And I've just remembered, in connection to Jewish American Month, Jewish Heritage Month, that's what it's called, Jewish Heritage Month, our very own Talia Husbands-Hankin, who has been doing, kind of spearheading lots of our homeless action work, and our own Rabbi Dev Noily are both going to be recognized by the City Council of Oakland for their work in the community. So now it's time to shift gears a little. We had says, okay, thank you, Kathy, for filling that. Yes, we also had losses in the community this year and had some of our first burials in our Kehilla Plot 70. So yes, there were life cycles all the way through the whole gambit. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to now start focusing on transition. And I will say that we are going to turn off the chat so that those of you on Zoom can focus in on the pieces that we're going to be talking about. And then Rabbi Dev's going to set some context, and then we're going to set you up to talk with a couple of other folks. Dev?
So when we get to this time in the year, we always think like, what is this annual meeting about? Like, what do we want to lift up? And it was so clear this year that it's like changes, 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 changes. The changes that we were planning to do before the pandemic, the changes that are happening as we move from pandemic to endemic, the changes that are happening around staffing, the changes that are happening, I mean, you know, the sharing that Penny did around just what it means to have done the arc of change process and to now be implementing the fruits of that process in every part of our community, such deep changes, and to sort of contain and guide and help us to find our way through all these changes is the initiation of this long awaited, anticipated organizational development process that is now solidly building a foundation to bring us some people who will help us all be part of that process. So we wanted to take our time together in this meeting to give everybody a chance to kind of talk and think and share about what these changes are for us individually and communally. And because we're right on the precipice of Shavuot, the thing that really came to me as a way to frame this for myself is that Shavuot commemorates the moment when our people, after having become liberated, but being a little like really freaked out by what that liberation means and not having settled yet and wandering right now at this point in the story by the time it'll be Shavuot, it will have been 7 weeks. So still in this kind of new, damp, wet kind of freedom. And what happens is that Torah is revealed to us collectively, and that the brit that happens, the covenant that happens between the source of all life and our people is a communal covenant. It's not an individual covenant. We don't enter into that covenant as single people. We enter into that covenant as a community, and all of us were at Sinai. Our tradition teaches all of us were at Sinai. All of us experienced that revelation. And that's why we stay up all night when it comes around. So I wanted to lift that up as we kind of take time to think about and talk about and explore what these changes mean for each of us, to remind us that we do it in the context of this communal covenant that we have as a Kehilla, as a community, and that we're both holding our own experience and understanding our own experience as a piece of a whole that is the unit of Kedusha, the unit of sanctity, of holiness that holds us. And Leah's going to help us do the next piece of that.
Is this mine? Nice and low, almost low enough. Hey everybody, good evening. In a minute, but not yet, we're going to break into groups. Yes? Can I?
Yeah.
Is that better? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So in a minute, but not yet, we're going to all break into groups, and we're going to have something to discuss. This is regarding a transition that we are in. So for me, the transition is an opportunity for us to rise to meet our needs as a community in innovative ways. For us, I'd like us to please first consider, in the groups that you have, who or what is missing. Concretely in your group, but also in your personal experience with Kehilla, or in what you desire to see in Kehilla as an organization. And after you've rooted in the reality of that, I'd also like you to consider what draws you to Kehilla. What needs of yours does Kehilla fulfill? And then share with your group one thing about Kehilla that you hope will not change during this transition.
Okay, so now comes the fun logistical part, because we're doing this in 2 different places. What we're going to do is we're going to break into groups of 4. So here in the sanctuary, you'll want to just find some other people and keep your groups to 4. Because when it gets bigger, you don't end up getting to talk. So we'll help you if you need to, matching up with other people. And on Zoom, Natalie is going to drop you into a breakout room. So your part's easy. You just stay on the computer and you go to that breakout room. Once you're in those rooms, first assign someone to be the facilitator who kind of helps you get going and keeps your time. You'll have a total of 12 minutes. So each person will get about 2.5 minutes each, and you should have somebody actually keep time. We'll let you know when there's about 4 or 5 minutes left total, and then again a 2-minute warning so you'll know that we'll be bringing you back. We will, the question, what Leah asked will get put up on the screen here so everyone in the sanctuary can see it, so you can remember it. And Natalie will then also broadcast it to you once you've gone inside your chat room. I do suggest, Leah, you read it one more time, though. And then what I'll say is we're going to come back and we're going to have a few-minute break for you to take care of your business, and then we're going to get on to the next part of the evening.
I also want to mention that if you are on Zoom and you're a person of color and you'd rather be paired with other people of color, you can rewrite your name with the letters BIPOC in front so that Natalie can put you into groups together if that's where your safe space is. So I'm going to read this one more time. Yes, I am. This is an opportunity for us to rise to meet our needs as a community in innovative ways. Please first consider in your groups who or what is missing. In your group, in your personal experience with Kehilla, or in what you desire to see in Kehilla as an organization. And then, second, consider what draws you to Kehilla. What needs does Kehilla fill for you? Share in your group one thing about Kehilla that you hope will not change during this transition.
Okay, let's do that clumping thing. Find yourself a group of 4 people, and then you can get yourself started once you've gotten yourself organized. Now is the part of the evening where I always feel stately. I feel stately. I get to give the state of the congregation talk. One other really important thing in my life happened this year, which I'm not sure how many of you ever noticed this, but after many years of wearing 2 different pairs of glasses, one when I can see distance and one when I can read, and always sort of trying to figure out how to make my notes so big that if I use my distance glasses, I could read them, I got progressives. So there is a God and an optometrist. So this is one of the reasons I like doing this, other than what I said before, which is a chance to share the things that I think about all the time, is it's the one time a year where I discover that PowerPoint's cool. Because I don't use PowerPoint, but I always get to make my little PowerPoint and share it with everybody. We can start it. Oh, Natalie, start it, because we get to show slide 1. There it is. I'm not that advanced. Rabbi Gray asked if there were animations. But now that Jonathan, who you'll get to know more of, is a hot rod videographer, maybe we'll be able to do something different next time. So, yes, welcome to the state of the congregation. What I want to do first, before we get into the content, is to have a chance to recognize the Kehilla staff, because somebody made a comment to me, another ED, about that this was a thankless job, and I said, you know, it's not a thankless job. I actually get thanked a lot. It's a hard job, and sometimes not doable, but it's not a thankless job because you all are very good about thanking. And I want to give you now the opportunity to have you get to thank all of our staff, some of who are here, some of who you can thank, find other times to thank. And so now we can go to slide number 2. And I want to just call them out. And again, some are here, some aren't. But our staff this year, and I put them to the best of my ability in the order of how long they've been here, except for our 2 emeritus rabbis who we know have been here for a long time. Chazan Shulamit, Rabbi Dev, Rabbi Gray, Rabbi Sam, and then we have Rabbi David is on Zoom from Israel, Palestine, where he is there. He's about to go visit our sister city in Palestine, and then Rabbi Bert Jacobson, our founding rabbi. And then in terms of the program and administrative staff, there's me. Natalie Boskin, our Assistant Director of Youth Programs and Zoom Tech. Dee Ward, who you've already met today, our Office Administrator. Fred Williamson, our custodian, who has headed home for the evening, I think, at this point. Oh, he's on his way up here? Okay. Then we have Ruthie Levin, our People of Color organizer, who is in Portugal this very moment. Elaviv Newton, our Director of Communications and Member Engagement, back over there. Kavitha Prabhu, our bookkeeper. Maria Lewis, Kehilla School Administrator. And last but not least, Jonathan Ruchlis, our Tech and Operations Manager. Now, we are about to have our newest staff member who will, oh, here comes Fred. There's Fred, wave at Fred, there you go. Oh, and Eduardo, one of our part-time custodians. That I'm really excited that we get to introduce our, what will be our newest staff member very soon. Rabbi Gray could not be replaced by just one person. We had to try a person and a half, which isn't even quite enough, but it's the best we could manage. And so we broke the jobs out, and so we have a Bar Mitzvah program director, and our new Bar Mitzvah program director is none other than raised in our congregation, Yeshe Gusfield. So now both the director of the program director, the Mitzvah program director, and the assistant director of youth programs, Natalie Boskin, who is going to be the main administrator for the program, both are graduates of our Bar Mitzvah program. In addition to Rabbi Sam. And Jonathan also grew up in the congregation for a few years as well. So it's a great source of hiring. If you ever need to hire someone, look for people who grew up at Kehilla. And then we will be having another hire, as we are getting very close on hiring a new Kehilla school director. And as soon as we have that all firmed up, we will announce it and you will know. But we do expect that to happen, both those positions beginning in earnest in July, beginning of July, though some more transition stuff is happening before that, because I want to just note that Rabbi Gray is going to be departing the Kehilla staff. As last day of work will be a Bar Mitzvah on June 10th. And then Rabbi Gray will get some much deserved time off before starting some other endeavors. But one of the cool things is that Rabbi Gray is not leaving the area nor the congregation. I think you'll get to see Rabbi Gray in different situations and settings. So we're very excited that we will lose a full-time colleague, but we won't lose our friend and fellow congregant. Was there something else I needed to say about staffing? Yeah. remember do you remember the name of the organization? Rabbi Gray has a job with a newer organization called Gather, working on reaching to younger Jews, connecting them to young adult Jews, and connecting them to Jewish community options.
Rabbi Gray and the whole Kehilla staff wrapped up an amazing school year last week, and much appreciations and gratitudes and love was shared between all. And we'll in particular have an opportunity to spend more time with Rabbi Gray at Kabbalat Shabbat on Friday, June 2nd. And we're aiming to gather for some food before services, enjoy service time with some blessings and gratitudes for Rabbi Gray, and have an oneg afterwards as well, not to be missed.
Okay, so now if you want to move to slide 3, I want to say a couple words about membership. This graph starts with the year 2014 and goes all the way to the present. We started about 380 members, and then last year we hit 565. So a long, steady period of growth, even through the beginning of the pandemic, but we began to flatten the growth a year ago, and this current year we actually, for the first time in a while, are decreasing our membership by just a couple. It's down to officially 557. But essentially, we're staying about the same size, and I'm happy to talk with you later more about why that is. I mean, that's households. Did I say people? It's households. We got 56 new member households this year, so still a nice, healthy crew. But we also had the departure of a little over 60 families. And there's interesting things to think about and notice in this. There are things that are okay about not growing. Because as related to the fact that we have grown so much in a period, that we haven't caught up with the needs of a congregation of the size that we're in. Hence, one of the main reasons why we are doing the organizational development process, which you will hear about when I'm done talking. You're going to hear a little more about that. It does also pose it poses some important questions, because one of the ways our budget, which has grown from $900,000 when I was first here to $1.5 million, is that we have less new members. The more members you have, there's some amount more increase in revenue that we're not having that. So I will talk about that in just a minute. Well, let's talk about that now. Why don't we move to the next slide, which is budget. So this is the budget that our board and our staff have been operating under this current year, right? The blue is dues, which is $770,000 in dues, which is about 55% of our budget come from dues, right? Then there's several other areas of significant income. Our contributions, donations, are about $200,000 and a little more. Program income, about $150,000, and educational tuition is close to $200,000. And then a couple other things, rentals and miscellaneous. And this year, our income will come in, looks like it'll come in just about to what we called for here. So we still have a month and a half to go. So I'll move on. You ready for me to move to the next slide? That's good. This is income, then we get expenses. Notice that the blue section is even bigger on this graph. What's our biggest expense at Kehilla? It's personnel. Now that is true in most nonprofit, probably almost every nonprofit, most, for sure. And at Kehilla, that is certainly true. 71.5% of our budget that we've operated under this year is for personnel. Salaries, benefits, taxes, things like that. Then we have our building expenses are about 8.5%. Our operational expenses are about 11%, and our program expense is about 9. So those 3 areas are all about the same. One thing to know is that those areas are very lean, right? That is, I found a congregation that kind of matches my own sense of how I think about money. We are not extravagant. We are thoughtful about how we as a community spend our money. So we have been a lean operation. One of the things that happened, and one thing to notice, is that this year the board passed a budget that had a deficit. It had a $47,000 deficit. And the board didn't, they weren't enthusiastic about doing it, but it was clear coming into the year we had needs, and there was a hope that, as we have done in many past years, we'd actually be able to raise more money than we thought, and that we'd have a smaller deficit. But one of the things that happened this year is that there was actually there's actually a series of things that happened this year. Where are my notes for that? You know, we returned to the building, and there was a set of expenses to returning to the building. There were other expenses that were about still dealing with the pandemic, the creation of multi-access programming and services, as well as a number of other things. The fact that we lost income this year because we made a decision after listening to our people, to you and the other congregants, that we moved high holidays here, and it meant we lost significant income from non-members who couldn't come to our in-person services. And then the inflation this year has been significant. All of those things and a few other factors have meant that it looks like we're not going to come in, we may come in at or a little bit over the deficit that we expected. And we are right, and we are in the process now of working on the budget for the upcoming year, and we're struggling to find a balanced budget. It's a real struggle. I wanted to be upfront with you about the situation we're in. Now, let me say one thing is we're not in crisis. We have, over the past 7 to 8 years, had a string of years where we have money that we surplus. So we're not in danger of not being able to pay any of our bills. But we are faced with a reality that we need to figure out what to do with, which is that the needs that we have are sort of bulging out beyond so far what we've been able to do to raise income. And so the board has begun taking this on. There have been a number of conversations happening. This will be an important piece of the organizational development process as we think about how are we structured, how do we think about ways that we bring in the income to be able to do what we do. Because what Kehilla does is essential, right? We are seeing, I mean, you know this, that what we do is important, and there's many people out in the community who don't belong to Kehilla who know that what Kehilla does is important. So those are important conversations, and one of the things that do you want me to pause right there? In terms of the mortgage? So you'll tell me if I'm answering the question you're looking for, which is that we have a mortgage still of about $1 million that we are paying down. So we have debts. We have reserves. We are currently have enough reserves. We're kind of in the zone of okay, according to how reserves are needed, but you need reserves because you never know when you're going to need them. And so it's actually important for us to be able to find ways to have each year to pay for the operations of the synagogue, right? That you can live, we're going to be okay. We have the money to pay, to handle the deficit this year, right? As I said, we're not going to be unable to pay our bills. But as a thing that goes out over years, it's not sustainable, and that's the part that we need to figure out. Is there something else that you think is not being? Right. It's required. Dev is wanting me to be more clear that it is required that we have a reserve. That it's not, you have to have a reserve. That's how we know that we can handle whatever's going to come as we go. That we don't know the economic conditions that we're going to be faced with over the next period. There's enough, so there's certainly much instability in our society these days. So it's really important that we be able to do that. So the thing that I want to make sure that to do tonight is to bring you in, to understand that it's going to take all of us to figure out how we get our ways to doing this. This is where our mutual love and care for Kehilla is going to need to come in to play as we figure out how we make sure Kehilla is sustainable. So there will be opportunities and conversations that are going to begin to happen that we will bring you in on. One thing to know is that we have talked over the last few years about sustainable dues. We don't have an actual dues amount that you have to pay. We've talked to you about what is a sustainable dues, meaning what does it take per household or per adult in a household to run the congregation. And that was in last year, that was about 2,700, something in the vicinity of per household. So this year, because some of our expenses are going to go up next year, because we want to make sure to pay our staff livable wages, we need to cover the costs of all the different things we're doing. The sustainable dues level will go up, right? We don't say you have to pay the sustainable dues level, but we are going to ask you to stretch and put it in the context of understanding that this is part of what we need in order to survive as a congregation. So you're going to, when you get your membership request July 1st, we're going to ask you to think as broad as you can about what it means to support Kehilla. More will come on that. I want to say a word about fundraising, because as you know, we don't bring in, dues alone does not bring in what we need. So we do ask for folks to make contributions in addition. And this year, as always, many of you who are here, as well as many other Kehilla congregants, have given generously this year. We've raised close to $200,000. So I thank you for that. It is true that we are still working on keeping a deficit down for this year. So if you haven't kind of expended your giving for this calendar year, I would ask you to make a contribution, if you could, in this next month and a half that will help Kehilla keep its deficit down this year. You can do that by sending a check. You can also go online and do it online. There's another way to think about the sustainability of Kehilla, and that's to think about joining our Legacy Society. Just recently, we got a very generous gift from Cantor Richard Kaplan, a Kehilla member and beloved friend of Rabbi Burt's, and some others of us here, other people here as well, who made we got a generous donation from his estate. And I want to invite all of you who have not yet done so to join the Kehilla Legacy Society, and you can make a gift. You don't have to pay it till you'll never know that you paid it. And it can be any size. You can be part of the society at any amount that fits with your plans, with what you will do with the wealth that exists of yours when you go. If you need more information about that, you can talk to me or any member of the Generosity Committee. Who here's from the Generosity Committee? Justin, Jamie, and then we have several others who may be online. Just a couple other quick things before I hand the mic over to our organizational development leaders. As I think most of you know, we sent out a survey recently as we are thinking about our masking policy, as lots of masking policies are changing around us. I think you got an email just this past week which shared the results. And at this point, we are holding tight with our policy. We will revisit in July. But for now, we're sticking with our mask required policy here at services and big events. Couple other things, as Lev noted, we did remove the steeple this year, and it's replaced with a nice little roof. And we also have taken on some other, we got a new roof to the other big roof we have. We've also discovered that, well, with the help of the atmospheric rivers, that we have other leaks and things that need to be replaced. We just actually did replace one of them, and just above Rabbi Dev's office, a leak we found, and some others. So it is another piece of what's coming down the road, is our thinking about how we make sure that we are able to continue to fix this beloved but not brand new building. And then the last thing I just want to say about the state of the congregation, which is a part that is where we are quite strong, which is our leadership, that there continue to be, oh, so many of you who find your many different ways to support Kehilla. And I'm not going to be able to go ahead and list them all, but figure all those things we say that you were listed off that we do, all of them had your leadership and involvement in making them happen. So that is, as always, our greatest strength, is our people. So with that, I want to invite Leah and Julie to come talk about the organizational development process.
Okay.
Hold it, or?
No. Thank you. Okay. Hi. So I'm Julie Litwin, and I'm with Leah Barrow, and we're representing the Organizational Development Committee. And we'd like to share a little bit about this committee and its work, but first, if you're like me, when I was invited to join this committee a couple months ago, I didn't even know what the word organizational development meant, so, and why Kehilla would be embarking on this process. So as you've just heard from Michael, and as we've been talking about the whole evening, there are a lot of transitions happening in Kehilla, and these transitions are inviting us to spread our branches and extend toward new possibilities, but they also require new structures, new ways of communicating, new ways of making decisions that will take the burden off of our overworked staff and will help all of us to feel included and engaged and part of a vibrant community. Two of the transitions that we have heard about tonight are the growth in membership over time and Kehilla's focus on racial justice and decentering whiteness. And both of these are really exciting and wonderful things, but they do demand that we make some changes in our structure in alignment with our foundational values and new learnings that will guide us in our future. So the purpose of a formal organizational development process is to help us to systematically look at our current structures, ways of operating, communicating, and decision-making in relation to the transitions that we're experiencing. To do this work, we need to hire an organizational development consultant, or probably a team of consultants, to guide us through the assessment process, to create a report, and to suggest new approaches that will create a strong and sustainable community of belonging informed by our Jewish values. The organizational development consultant will want to hear from all of us about kind of like what we were talking about tonight, what's going well, what's challenging, what we value about Kehilla that we don't want to lose, and our hopes for the future. And there will be many ways for all of us to be involved and to have our voices heard as we go along.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the OD committee has been doing. So the desire for an OD process has been brewing for some years. And there have been a few starts and stops with the process. Some months ago, Rabbi Dev and our executive director, Michael Sachs-Thaler, who we all know, assembled a small group of people who have expertise in this area to come together to help kick off Kehilla's organizational development work. This group has coalesced into a committee that has added new members in the last few months in an intentional attempt to be inclusive and representative of various groups in Kehilla. Currently, the committee members include Rabbi Dev, Michael, Ruthie Levin, Stephanie Hochman, Julie Litwin, Lisa Corwin, Tova Vance, Susila Kisper, Lynn Braverwoman, Beth Sarhoft, and myself, Leah Barrow. When this latest iteration of the group came together, our focus was on developing a proposal to invite organizational development consultants to apply to work with Kehilla, and then to create a new and clear structure of organization, communication, and decision-making. Through this process, we've seen the need for and have begun working on clarifying our own purpose and responsibilities, our decision-making processes, and thinking forward to how an organizational development consultant will be supported in their work here at Kehilla. In doing so, we are living into a beautiful, multi-layered and relational process that has begun to put into practice what we want to see in Kehilla's organizational development work as it's done. We have, in fact, developed a draft proposal, which has already been reviewed by over 50 Kehilla members. The proposal is still being modified. Once completed, the process of selecting and hiring an OD consultant will begin. It will likely take several more months for someone to be hired. We have a strict time limit tonight, but the OD committee is planning for a future information session for the Kehilla community, in which we can go into more depth and answer some questions. And we will continue to keep the community informed throughout the process. We look forward to much more conversation about this.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, all the members of that committee. Maybe we have time for maybe 2 questions. Many other questions will have to be answered later. So, if you have a question, hey, Shulmi? Well, there's gonna. Your question, is there room for appreciations? Well, board members are about to get appreciated in a minute. Was there? Oh, Yeshi just Yeshi's mother, otherwise known as Rabbi Chaya, just appreciated me for my PowerPoint. Thank you. Anybody, can you pop the chat back up on there? I don't know how to use an iPad. Anybody have a question you want to ask? If you have one on the chat, you could drop in the chat. Anybody have a question? Monica. Okay, the diversity, equity, and inclusion team is looking at, how did you phrase that? It's at holding Kehilla accountable around dismantling white supremacy within our congregation. The organizational development process is taking a look at the whole picture. And so part of what is going to be looked at is how is it that we are addressing that. But we're also looking at how are we structured? How's our staff structured? How is our structure of leadership of members, and how do we increase the ability for people to contribute? How are, what are the values that are driving us and how are we living our values? It's a whole bunch of pieces that are part of that. It's a bigger picture. Karen. OD team, might we have a community? Let's bring that back to, well, what I'll say is that we wanted to give, I'm on that team, wanted to give you the first introduction. There is part of what we are doing is thinking about how to communicate to the community, and we will be communicating at much greater length to the community in the fairly near future about the OD process. Any other questions? Okay. Feel free when you think of them later to talk to me. I checked on the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. Wait. Karen. Oh, that's the introduction.
I think there's a major issue in Kehilla in general about communication being relatively good and people really attending to leadership, sending out information to all of us. But a loop that allows all of us to send information back to you is missing. So that's the can of worms. I know you've been addressing it, but and committee connection is one way, but we need others.
Not to disrespect worms, but I don't consider that a can of worms. I think that's one of the important issues that has happened when the structure, Kehilla has grown and has grown from a place where there was a lot more, I think, ability to communicate to a situation where we've had some struggles doing so, and part of it is a picture of what does our structure work, what gets dependent on staff and gets stopped at staff. Like you're correct. It is a piece of what has gotten some correction to it. Thanks. I mean, you've been part of a group of people who've helped make some of that happen, and it's a piece of what we'll be talking about as we talk about structure. Again, within the OD process, we're going to talk about how are we functioning, how are we, including into that is how are we communicating what's happening. Okay, you're welcome. What I want to do now is do a little more of the appreciation here, which is I want to invite up Michael Myers. Are we on the right part of that agenda? Yes, because let me just say, many people do a lot for Kehilla, and I particularly want to say a thank you to the members of the board who do work that a lot of it you don't see, and so it is crucial work. It's holy work, taking care of the foundation of the place, and so I'm bringing up Michael Myers, and Rachel Riley is on Zoom. Well, actually, hi Rachel. Our current co-chairs of the board.
Thanks, Michael. The text that Michael sent Rachel and I was "be brief," which many of you know is not in my nature, but we're going to try. We have lots of acknowledgments, and Rachel's going to kick us off with a couple, and then I'm going to take a couple.
I think we're going to start by thanking some of our board members who are leaving. Is that right, Michael?
Yes.
So I wanted to thank two of the board members who are going to be stepping down at the end of June. The first is Varia, who had returned to us to be on the board after a 20-year break from her last board term. And she has been involved in many, many aspects of Kehilla, but most recently has come back again to be very involved with the school now that she's got, I guess we would say second generation, her grandchildren are attending the Kehilla school. And we've really appreciated Varia's thoughtfulness and her deep commitment to Kehilla in the work she's done with us this year on the board.
Varia's over there. Wait.
And then the second board member I wanted to thank is Ori Seeley. who is just like a totally laid back and super easy to engage with guy, which is something I was surprised by. Being that over the past 3 years, he hasn't just been working at Kehilla helping us find great board candidates, but he's also basically been spearheading the Contra Costa County COVID response. It's always been a great burst of Kehilla joy when I've had the pleasure of hearing him on the radio in his doctoring work that he's doing on the side. And he has just done a great job in finding and recruiting people to come join us on the board at Kehilla for the last number of years.
And Ruth, who I think is probably not on Zoom because she's back east and it's way past her bedtime. But Ruth has been on the board, and I had the pleasure of working with her also on the Finance Committee, co-chair. She was a treasurer on the board, and it's just been a long-time community member and huge, huge contributions to Kehilla. So big thank you to Ruth. Woo. And this next one is for Lisa Corwin, who's not stepping down, but is relinquishing her role as secretary. Huh? She leaving the board officially? No, it's hard to accept, but she is. I'm in denial. I'm clearly in denial. I thought she was. She's leaving the board. Okay, oh yeah. So, oi. So, I know I was very excited. But so huge. Many of you, most of you probably know Lisa. Huge contributions. Been a tremendous help to me personally, helping me get oriented to the board, and is going to be very much missed. But very active still and part of OD, and very active in the community. There's a whole bunch of people who are still on the board. Hope I get this right. I hope I get this right. Sure. You get to see take off my glasses too. So some people are here. I know Jamie's here. Woo! And Stephanie is, did I see Stephanie? No. And Dina and Pamela. I saw Pamela, yep. And Nina and Tadish and Dan, who is, I think, on Zoom, right?
There he is, waving on Zoom.
Woohoo! So, just, as Michael said, the congregation's good at thanking people, but this is really another opportunity just to thank everybody on the board. It's an awesome crew, and I'm both Rachel and I really honored to be part of it and part of that group. And now, can I get a drum roll? Thank you. Also our pleasure to introduce two new board members who are no strangers, neither one of them, I don't think, are strangers to any of you. And the first person is Leah. And Rachel's going to give our second introduction.
Hey there. And the second new board member is Justin, who we're totally excited to have join us. She is a
here
Bay
too.
Area,
Yeah, I saw her, yeah.
Bay Area native who took a little 20-year break. And like a lot of us, she got pulled into more involvement at Kehilla through the school and the Bar and Bat Mitzvah program. And this past year, she's jumped in to work with us very enthusiastically on the Generosity Committee. And from there, we've pulled her onto the board. And I'm just super excited to get to work with her more. So thank you, Justin.
And a special thank you to Michael and Rachel. This is a challenging time to lead a board, and they've done it with great commitment and care. Thank you both. I want to invite El Aviv Newton to come up and share. There is another new initiative which I have not mentioned yet, and Elle will tell us about, that I think you're all going to appreciate.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ella Vive-Newton. I work at Kehilla. I'm here to tell you a little bit about some changes in our digital infrastructure happening really soon, starting next month. There's a change coming. It's a very good change. One of the primary parts of that is we're actually changing our databases and moving to something you may have heard of called SchulCloud, which is a database synagogues all around the country, and in fact the world use. And it has a lot of really great advantages that as members you'll be able to partake in that will make the process of being a Kehilla member a lot more clear, a lot more straightforward. You will be getting a portal to log into SchulCloud through the website. From there you'll be able to access your own profile, you can update your information, you can see a member directory, and then you'll also be able to manage your transactions with Kehilla. You'll be able to see your financial records. You won't have to ask our bookkeeper. You'll be able to go online and see it yourself directly. You can make payments, you can make donations, and it'll be really easy to track that information, which is something we haven't had before at Kehilla. So that's like a really kind of huge infinite leap we're taking infrastructurally that we're all really, really excited about on staff. And then in addition to that, our membership forms, our Kehilla school registration form will all be folded into SchulCloud, so you'll be using those forms in that database. You'll be able to track that information there, and it'll just kind of give you this beautiful full prism picture of your Kehilla membership and what that looks like on the back end. And then the membership form is another thing that's going to be changing. We've heard a lot that it gives feelings to people like it's way too long and it's taking too long to fill out. So like we're really happy that it's going to be a much shorter experience this year. And we're really focused on streamlining that so it's easy and that it like populates the information you've already given us. And then I'm also super excited because we're getting a website redesign, which is in process right now, which is so overdue. I know you all know that. Some of the better parts of that is that we're gonna have like a completely fully responsive website, which means you can use it on your iPhone, which I know it's 2023, that's like really shocking. We'll be able to do that at last. And we're also gonna make it really easy for you to see the upcoming events that are happening. Right now you kind of have to go to a calendar grid and it's kind of like you have to be on a desktop, but it's just like no good, no bueno. So like you're gonna be able to do that all on any device you're using. It'll be really easy to find what's happening at Kehilla. Let's see, and so in June you should be looking for an email. It'll give you a link to your portal to SchulCloud. You'll be able to set up your information, kind of explore it, and then in July you can expect to see your membership form and your Kehilla school form happening. So we're really, really excited about this. We put a lot of energy and thought and dreaming into making us like kind of leap into that future. So we're really excited for it, so thank you. Cheers.
Do we get 2 stones or 1? 2 stones. Otherwise known as bracha and dan.
She's going to keep me brief, she thinks. So who knows the importance of...
See you at the retreat, yay!
Who knows the importance of the date July 8th? What's happening? The Kehilla Annual Summer Retreat. And where will it be this year?
Lake Temescal.
Lake Temescal, the North Picnic area. All day, Shabbaton, July 8th. Again, Shabbat under the redwoods. There are redwood trees there.
Will there be lunch?
Will there be lunch?
Yes. Will it be delicious? Yes.
Who's providing it?
Sacred Kitchen.
Sacred Kitchen, who brought the Pesach cuisine here for the building and did last year's retreat food. And what else will be happening then?
So what else is happening is what the committee decides is going to happen. So come join us. Mostly it's fun. It's just relaxation and fun and hanging out. It's what we need to do.
Without masks optional.
Without masks optional. Masks are optional.
If you are interested in leading a play shop, talk to me. And if you're interested in making it happen, talk to anybody on the committee, and that's good. Thank you.
Committee members, under the guidance of El Aviv, are Leanne Grossman, Pearl Werfel, Anna Martin, Bracha, and myself, and we invite people to join us because it's fun.
It's fun. Okay, goodbye.
Seriously, join them. Join them. Summer retreat at KehillaSynagogue.org is who you communicate with if you want to join this committee, or you can right now tonight talk to Don and Bracha. Registrations will be middle of June at the latest, and they will run through, no, we don't know how they're going to run, never mind. I don't know if Shul Cloud's going to be up yet, so it may not run through Shul Cloud. Last thing I want to say is about High Holidays. High Holidays are coming. We, as much as we loved the coziness of having services here, we're going to return to what we had done in the past, which is that only the end of Yom Kippur and some other second day, Rosh Hashanah, other things are here. We are exploring our options. It is leaning towards that we're returning to Scottish Rite. We will let you know. It is going to be a situation where you will be able to come to all the services that you want. And so it's going to be, we won't be doing the lottery anymore. And we will communicate with you as soon as we know. If we're moving back to Scottish Rite, it will actually be a very important time for you to invite the people who do not belong to Kehilla, who couldn't come to services in person for these years to come, because we want them to come back. We want them to pay for High Holidays because it is an important source of revenue for us, because we put out an enormous amount for High Holidays and we do awesome High Holidays. So more information will come on that as we go. And I think that at this point we're going to do our closing. I'm going to say my last thank yous, which are, I appreciate Jonathan up in the booth. Thank you, Jonathan. Natalie running the Zoom. Thank you, Natalie. Thanks to everyone who helped make this evening happen, the staff, Fred, Dee, everyone on the staff, and to all of you who helped do parts tonight. It's really nice to see you all in action. And so I'm going to hand it to Rabbi Dev and Chazan Shulamit to close us out.
We're going to count a little Omer. Before we do, Chazan Shulamit reminded me to let you know that the spiritual leadership team is working on another survey because we love surveying you. And this is a survey about your spiritual state of being, which is an interesting survey to try to design, but we're doing it. And basically, we want to kind of gather information about where we are all at so that we as a team can hold that in our minds and our hearts as we design the High Holy Day experience. So we've all been through a lot. It'll be a long time since we've all gathered together, and we just are feeling a little lost in terms of sensing like where the whole community is at. So we hope that this will help us orient toward you.
Also, because in the past few years, a huge number of our fellow Kehilla congregants have come to join us, and we've had ever fewer opportunities to meet each other up close, to meet each other's families and households, to meet each other face to face and heart to heart. So we're eager to start bridging that gap in many ways, including this survey.
So I think you may have gotten a sheet when you came in that says liturgy for annual community meeting. If shifting your posture into standing or is available to you, or if there's another way that you like to mark embodied shift to support the counting of the Omer, I invite you to do that. And while Chazan Shulamit is getting ready, I'll foreshadow that.
What's counting the Omer, Dev?
Oh, we don't have time for that.
Oh.
We're just going to count. We've been counting from the day after Pesach, the day after the first Seder, and we'll count up until Shavuot, 7 weeks of 7 days each, 49 days. The 50th day is Shavuot. We are about to go from day 40 into day 41, closing out, getting close to closing out the 6th of 7 weeks. And each day has a pair of divine or qualities of divine energy to it. And this day that we're moving into, we're in the week of Yesod, which is foundation. So if you feel like you're being held or supported by something, if you feel like you can be balanced and stable and grounded, that's Yesod. And we're going into the day of Yesod, in the week of Yesod. So if you need grounding, if you need stability, if you need to feel like you know where you are and you can count on that for a long, long time, this is your day.
Come on. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Ha da 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 da. Ha da 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 da. Ha da 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 da. Ha da 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 da. Baruch. Baruch atah havaya, Eloheinu ruach haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, al sfirat ha'omer, al sfirat ha'omer, al sfirat ha'omer, al sfirat ha'omer. What day is it? Hayom echad ve'arba'im yom, shehem chamisha shavuot v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is 41 days, which is 5 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. Yesod Sheva Yesod. Connection within connection. Foundation within foundation. Hi, da, 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 da. Hi, da, 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 da. Hi, da, 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 da. Hi, da, 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 da. Amen v'amen. Amen v'amen. Amen v'amen. Amen v'amen. Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Thanks to all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Michael.
This one was the one I wasn't sure we were going to have.